Okay, well, let's make a start, and there may be other people who are joining us as we carry on. So welcome. Thank you for joining us to find out more about the Longwood Gardens Fellows Program. And my name is Sarah Masterton. I'm the Vice President of Engagement and Learning here at Longwood Gardens. And before we dive in and find out more, I'd like to introduce you to our new Director of the Fellows Program, Sharon, and I'll let her introduce herself, and then also Katie, who's one of our current fellows. So Sharon, if I can hand it to you to introduce yourself, please.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Sarah, and thanks to all of you for making time to join us on this session today. Like Sarah said, I am the new Fellows Director, 3 weeks old at this point, so coming from deep experience in career development and leadership development, but new to the Fellows Program. My name is Sharon Tomsanowak. Please call me Sharon. I know my last name is 1,000 miles long, so I'm excited to be working in this capacity and hopefully working with many of you on the call here today. And Katie Sirach is one of our current fellows who will be providing information about her experience to date. Katie, I don't know if you want to tune in and say hello at this point, and then we can dig in.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to speak with you today. My name is Katie Sirach, and I'm currently one of the 5 fellows here at Longwood. And please be open to ask any questions as we go along.
Thanks, Sharon and Katie. So just for everyone's information, just as a reminder, the webinar is being recorded so that we can post it online for people who haven't been able to join us live today. And today we're going to be doing a brief introduction to Longwood, a little bit of discussion about the Fellows Program, and then the kind of meet a fellow with Katie. And obviously, an important part is time for you to ask questions and get some answers about your queries about the program. So Longwood is one of the great gardens of the world, and it's really based on that legacy that really includes a spirit of innovation and stewardship. And for those of you who aren't sure where we are, we're nestled in the Brandywine Valley in Chester County, which is about 40 minutes outside Philadelphia City in Pennsylvania. And we're really fortunate because in this area, we're actually surrounded by lots of other gardens. So there's 30 gardens within 30 miles. So the area is known as America's garden capital. So Longwood Gardens has about 1,100 acres, and it started as a home to the native Lenape tribe. Then it became farmed land and an arboretum. And in 1906, Mr. Pierre Pont purchased the land to save the trees. And our mission now and kind of looking forwards reflects his spirit of innovation and place. And for our mission, it places horticulture, education, and the arts as the key elements of what we do. So education and learning and engagement are part of that heart of Longwood. And we provide inspiring learning activities for all ages and all skill levels. And we're really excited about the Fellows Program. So the Fellows Program evolved from our previous Longwood Graduate Program. And the new program is a 13-month immersive residential experience. And it's growing future leaders in public gardens. And it's focused on leader development. And I'm going to hand over to Sharon and Katie to kind of walk through some elements of the program.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I hope that you have the sense that this program really builds on a strong tradition of educational programs that started over a half century ago. We're really building on that tradition of innovation and excellence by making the sustained investment in the future leaders of public horticulture. So you can see on the screen here the basic description of the program, and I want to draw your attention to a few key aspects of this description. It is a 13-month residential working and learning experience. The program is designed to be a little over a year long so that each cohort has the chance to interact with both the outgoing and the incoming cohorts on either end of the year. This starts to build community across cohorts and establish those long-term connections that are enjoyed by alumni in our Society of Fellows network. The program is residential in that our fellows live together as roommates in a historic estate house that is adjacent to Longwood Gardens. So it is family style living, not dorm style living. And part of that is set up so that there is ongoing collaboration among the cohort members. So the program is focused on further developing high potential individuals. Our fellows come from a wide variety of backgrounds, but what they all have in common is a strong interest in and commitment to developing their own leadership capacity. So each of them is an individual who's been recognized by their employer or their peers as a potential leader of the future. So we are building on a foundation that has started to emerge in your personal and professional life. And then last, we talk about heightening self-awareness. So the Fellows Program really operates with this understanding that the professional is personal and vice versa. So fellows are invited to engage in continual reflection and self-assessment to identify how personal values and strengths really drive their leadership styles. So if we go to the next slide, I can show you a little bit more of what this actually looks like. So the program draws on a variety of learning strategies that fall into kind of two broad buckets. Our fellows work both individually and as a cohort. So we ask that each fellow really take the lead on projects like departmental immersion, where they are embedded in a department at Longwood, and they work with their peers on a cohort project that relies on their collective strengths. So this individual and community-based work happens in kind of two categories. So on the left, you can see those aspects of the program that are focused on the organizational and industry context, you know, the world of public horticulture. So the program was designed to address the core competencies that are needed by successful leaders in public horticulture. So we identified these competencies not only through benchmarking and research process, but also by activating our network. Sarah mentioned we have 30 gardens within 30 miles. So there is an active and robust conversation that Longwood leads in many areas and contributes to among our peer institutions. And so in designing this program, we based the content not only on the theory, but also what our partners are seeing in practice. So the core curriculum really focuses on the platform skills that are needed by executives in public horticulture. And so this looks like the world-class educational programs that really build on the current theories in leadership, board relations and governance, communications, executive presence, strategic planning, many other aspects of the skills that are needed by leaders. And then we tie that content to projects based in Longwood's strategic plan. Those projects are reflected in the cohort project that is completed by the fellows as a group. That is based on research done through the American Public Gardens Association and others to identify the themes and common challenges that are shared across institutions in the sector. That conversation loops in garden directors from around the world. You know, Longwood is in many ways a world apart, but it is very connected to public horticulture globally and is engaged with partner institutions around the world. Those relationships and that dynamic is reflected in the 2-month assignment that fellows undertake at a partnering garden. So most of our US-based fellows go abroad and most of our international fellows go domestically. So we try to facilitate a very intentional cross-cultural exchange within the context of doing that project and ask that fellows bring that learning back into the cohort project. And then we also ask that our fellows work locally to use what they have learned to build Longwood as an institution and to learn by teaching to engage Longwood staff in the process of leadership development. So that is the sort of big picture industry focused side of the program. And then on the right, you can see some of the aspects of the program that are really focused on you as an individual fellow. So we start with a variety of assessment tools, those benchmarks that give fellows a sense of what their leadership style might be, what their communication styles might be, how they deal with change, all sorts of assessment and feedback as a way to prompt that self-reflection and really kickstart that self-directed learning. So within that process, we also match fellows with a mentor, an organizational mentor, either from Longwood or from a partnering organization, and then work in the conversation to make sure that fellows are embedding themselves in the life of the organization. We also partner fellows with executive coaches who help them through a series of meetings work toward specific professional and career goals. And then we also ask that fellows take the lead on identifying any specific areas of professional development where they would like to invest further. So we make funds available for fellows to pursue learning opportunities across a variety of settings. So we call this the Flex curriculum. Fellows have used it to do things like attend or present at conferences, set up formal visits with other gardens, engage in certificate programs, enroll in leadership, intensive trainings at various business schools, that sort of thing. So we do ask that fellows be very intentional and very proactive in taking the lead on their own professional development and growth. And then we also provide some accountability for tracking that growth and making sure that you are collecting the tools you need for the direction that you're trying to go. So the next slide will give you a little bit more of a sense of how these pieces fit together. You can see how this breaks out according to time. So we spend about a quarter of our time together in those formal learning sessions, in the trainings, workshops, classroom-based sessions. And then the rest of the time is really split between working on projects with others and engaging in those more individualized leadership development pursuits. So one of our guiding frameworks is this idea that leadership work is people work. And so we spend a lot of time honing the capacity to strategically engage others in many different settings. So for example, this may look like having a visiting faculty member who is a subject matter expert come to Longwood, come to the classroom here, and provide a master class on a particular topic. So the fellows have a chance to engage with current theory in that setting. And then at the same time, they may choose to host a dinner in which they invite not only that faculty member, but leaders from local gardens to come join the conversation and then explore that theory in practice in those real life circumstances. So I hope you're getting the sense that the program is immersive. Living and working together means that our fellows are engaged in leadership development efforts in a way that does foster high levels of accountability and feedback, but also a sense of accelerated growth and purpose. And so the next slide will give you a little bit of a sense of the types of people that we are looking for. And then I will bring Katie into the conversation to give you her perspective on what it's like to be a fellow. So here we're looking for someone who's committed to professional excellence. Excellence is a hallmark of Longwood's business, the way that we do things. And this shows up not only in sort of big picture strategy, but also in the fine detail of our day-to-day activities. So the ideal fellow is someone who is attending not only to that big picture, but also in the details of how we pursue those goals and really get work done. We're looking for someone who has demonstrated leadership competencies, whether that is through your formal work experience or through a volunteer capacity. Our fellows have a lot of different career paths that bring them to this program. But we are looking for people who have taken steps toward building their own competency as a leader. All of this is built on the idea that learning really starts with curiosity. So if your questions are around how you can work with organizations to achieve goals, how you can make horticulture more inclusive, more innovative, more sustainable, how you can do that work in partnership with other people, this might be the right program for you. Leadership has evolved a long way from the command and control style of, I say jump, you say how high. Now we are looking for people who are able to succeed in the 21st century. We're looking for leaders who have that sense of collaboration and are looking for ways to bring out the best in others. This draws on communication skills. It draws on your ability to be adaptive and resilient. And a lot of it comes from your internal motivation to do this work and to do it well. And that often looks like a commitment to trying to make the world a better place and trying to make sure that we are working for the greatest good. It's important to us in cultivating our cohorts that each cohort represents diverse perspectives and backgrounds. We're looking for people who can bring new perspective and new vision, and who can help Longwood and the public horticulture sector really broaden and deepen the traditional talent pipelines and expand to talent pools that may not have had a seat at the leadership table to date. So we're looking for folks who have that sense of vision and innovation and the commitment to continually develop yourself and those around you. This is a program that is focused on public horticulture. So while we may be talking about leadership competencies that are relevant across industries, we are looking for people who want to build a career in public horticulture, who want to be in the garden world for the next few years and to continue growing. And so I know I just threw a lot at you, but let me invite Katie to hop on here and really give you that personal perspective. Hi, Katie. Thanks so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Katie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you were doing before arriving at Longwood, and what got you interested in the program?
Sure, of course. Hi, everyone. So I came from Washington, D.C., where I was working for Architect of the Capitol at the United States Capitol. And there I was the gardener supervisor for the House of Representatives. I wore quite a lot of hats at that position. So I was doing the landscape designing, garden bed conversions, plant selections for our annual and perennial plants, historic preservation, general maintenance, snow removal, team building, event preparation for events such as the presidential inaugurations, and public outreach and some interpretation. So it was a wonderful career to have before coming here. Prior to that, I worked for a small sustainable landscape company in Florida, where I was able to do a lot of designing and managing of a small team. And before that, I worked for the Peace Corps in Panama as an environmental conservation volunteer. And I found out about the program through the American Public Gardens Association now 2.5 years ago, when I actually spoke with one of the previous fellows who told me about the program and just the opportunities that it would create for me by increasing my leadership abilities. So I researched the program and was like, I have to do this. I have to apply. And that's where it all started for me.
Yeah, I think you really have an interesting background and a depth of experience. And I wonder if you could just give us a sense of how it's going so far. You have been in the program since May, so you're in your third month. What have you been up to?
Sure. We have passed the 2-month marker, and I feel like we've been here for a year already for the amount of work and effort we've put in. But I'll start off with when we first came in the first week, we just got to know each other, learn a little bit about our dynamics and moving into the home. And really that first week started our self-reflection kickoff of journaling, reading, and forming our little community. But what really helped us get to know each other is a retreat that we went to in Maryland for 3 days with Sarah and an executive coach as well, who helped us really gain clarity on why we came to the program and what we're trying to get out of it, and build those normacies and competencies together as a entire group so that we could be a support system for each other. And then once we returned from the retreat, we joined the American Public Gardens Association conference virtually, unfortunately, but it was still wonderful. And we were able to network with the different garden leaders in the entire country, be able to interact with other staff from different public gardens. And it allowed us to understand the issues and concerns in the horticultural industry right now. And besides doing those little events, we also have been forming new relationships with basically the entire Longwood team. Everyone here has been so welcoming and kind towards all of us. They all have an open door policy and have given us accessibility to all of them. And that's one of the wonderful assets about being here at Longwood, is that you get to learn from the industry leaders, and they're all very willing to share their time with you. We've also been able to select executive coaches and mentors that we've been paired up with that will help us on this journey. And the mentors, at least for myself, my mentor is the director of horticulture, Sharon Loving, who has been exceptional and has really helped me guide to figure out what career path I want to take and how she's transitioned through her career. And she's been at Longwood for over 30 years. And one of the most fun experiences and challenging has been having a speaking coach who's an executive coach who comes and works with us, Laura Sicola, who challenges us to improve our public speaking and teaches us how to be more direct and get our message across. And it was challenging for everyone, but it has helped us from that happened within the first month of us being here. That's really helped us to grow and interact with all of the new faces and people that we're meeting. Another really fun experience that we've had is having a personal stylist come here. So everyone has been able to go through their color palette with putting swatches on their chest and seeing if you're a winter, an autumn, or a spring or summer. And it's just a fun opportunity to be able to display how you feel on the inside outwardly and really present yourself as a leader. And it gave a lot of us confidence to really exude how we're feeling on the inside out. Besides that, we've started to work on our cohort and immersion project. So the cohort project I can jump into a little bit later, but that's a group activity, while the immersion projects, we do a deep dive into one specific department at Longwood or a variety if it's an interdepartmental project. And that allows us to really focus on one specific field that we're interested in. So mine is in land stewardship and ecology, pairing with interpretation to create new signage for the wood or the forest walk and the meadow garden. So that really piqued my interest, but there's options in all of the different departments here. And finally, one of the other fun things we've done is to host formal dinners. So we are allowed, like Sharon said, we invite guests to come that are influential in the horticultural industry, and we're able to share a meal with them and share our household and be able to answer specific questions that we form as a team to try and find more reasoning to how to project our cohort project, or really just questions that we have for these specific leaders in whatever field that they're in. So it's been quite a ride, and we're just enjoying it and getting to know each other even more and just embracing the Longwood culture.
Yeah, Katie, thank you for sharing that. I think your cohort is typical in having access to a variety of resources that get not only at what we think of as sort of the traditional professional skills, but also that aspect of professional presence that can permeate, every interaction that we have with other people. So I wondered if you could dig in a little bit. Is there anything that you have covered in the formal trainings that has been particularly useful as you kind of pivot toward thinking about your leadership development?
Sure, of course. And I'm not choosing this one only because Sarah is on this webinar, but we all have found this to be one of the most beneficial sessions that we've had. So we had a facilitations session. It was a 2-day course with Sarah, the Vice President of Learning and Engagement. And basically that course has allowed us to better prepare ourselves for the meetings and presentations and interactions that we'll be having for the next year and really through the rest of our careers. So it basically taught us to become more engaging, dynamic facilitators And we're using those practices every day. So it only happened a couple of weeks ago, but we've been having to present to one another and engage in discussions almost on a daily basis. And learning these skills to create a safer and more trusting work environment while also having fun has helped us relax and be able to present our authentic selves and just grow as leaders. So it's been one of our cohort's favorite experiences so far.
And I wonder, Katie, if you could speak a little more to what it's like to live and work with the other fellows. How has that been for you?
It's been incredible. And I'm not just saying that I can't imagine doing this program alone. It would be very intimidating, but to know that you have an entire support system that you are not only working with and living with, it just gives you a sense of community and a family. And it didn't take long for us to open up to each other, learn about each other's vulnerabilities, our strengths and weaknesses, and just become a little family. It's nice to be able to take a session that we attended that day, go back to the house, make dinner, have a cocktail, and be able to debrief with each other and learn how each other are emotionally dealing with that problem, new ideas. And it's just a wonderful experience to be able to share with people that you came in that you had no idea who they were, and to be able to form that sense of community so quickly.
I do have a question for you. So we've been talking a lot about the total immersion that comes with this program. But could you share how you balance work and personal life? Can you leave? Can you visit family? Can they visit you? What's it like to maintain your life outside of the fellowship program?
I think for all the applicants, that's something you really need to think about, is the work-life balance and how you want to prepare yourself to leave whoever you have behind, whether it's your spouse, your family, your children. But luckily, Longwood a work-life balance is so important to this organization, and they do provide that for you, even in this intensive program. It's more just about how you manage your time and use it wisely. So I can't say that we have a typical 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 type of day. Sometimes we have a completely jam-packed day from 8 until 6 o'clock. Or if we're hosting a dinner, it's from like 8 to 8 o'clock, and it's a very busy schedule. But there's also days that are more relaxed, where you have to be self-motivated and just prioritize the tasks that you have. But we, for the most part, can leave on the weekends. You can visit your family. We are offered 10 days of annual leave besides the holidays that we get. So there are opportunities to go home, really just depending how you work that out with your family. I know that it's much easier for the people from the United States to visit their family, but there are opportunities. For instance, Usman, who's from Nigeria, he'll be visiting Nigeria in November to visit his family and also attend a conference out there. And Noemi will be going back to Mexico to do a similar thing. So there are the opportunities, and Longwood is so flexible as well, and understand that people have things going on and things happen in your life. So there's a good balance between the work and home life balance.
And I will add to that, Katie, Longwood Fellows are Longwood staff members while they are here. So that does mean that the 10 days of paid time off are provided. Longwood Fellows also receive health care through Longwood, which can extend to families, whether or not families are living in Pennsylvania. The program provides a shared vehicle. So it's not really available for like weekend road trips, but it is available for kind of daily comings and goings. So there are resources available, to kind of help you manage some of those aspects of your life, around the Fellows Program. But yeah, this is certainly something to consider. If you are a person with children, a partner, please involve them in your discussion about whether to join this program at this point in your career. Our current cohort of 5 has 4 people who are married and 3 people who are parents. And so attending to those family dynamics is a high priority for folks coming through this program.
I can also say, Sharon, because I can speak that I have a husband, that it's a conversation to have before you come to the program to really understand how coming here is going to improve your life. But it should be a decision that you make with your family to really dive into what's important to you and how this will impact your life. But it's such a wonderful opportunity. And if you have the chance to do it, you should absolutely take it.
So, Katie, I just have 1 or 2 more questions for you before we open it up to our attendee questions. Can you just give us a little bit of a sense of what you see for yourself after the program?
Sure. My life is going to be quite transient with my husband's job after I leave here. So he just joined a government organization where we'll be traveling quite a bit. But my goal is to join an organization in an upper level position above management to work for a public garden, most likely in an urban setting, so that I can improve accessibility to nature for the general public. I feel like that's an aspect that a lot of people in this industry are trying to do, is improve inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility in gardens. And an urban environment is such a wonderful place to use those skills and bring in new people to be able to share the benefits of nature with everyone. So that's my general goal. Also to still remain in landscape designing, but be more involved in public engagement, education, and interpretation. And each of us in this cohort, we've talked about where we see ourselves. We all want to create these bridges between the public and nature. And that's part of our cohort project, a little bit of our brainstorming idea. And we also want to make career pathways more accessible for people that are in the industry or people coming in as career changers. So we all have different goals of fostering innovation, being visionary, growing staff, and have different organizational standards. So it's nice that we all have similar goals, but different directions that we're trying to move with them.
Yeah, and I think that is typical of different cohorts in this program. You know, people certainly come here with the intention to secure director, VP, executive director roles, but not everyone does. You know, we also have people interested in roles as curators or program directors. And so while we focus on the competencies that one would need in any leadership position, the application of those competencies is really driven by our individual fellows. You know, this program is in some ways here to provide space for you to articulate, you know, exactly where it is you're trying to go, and then make sure that you are equipped with the tools that you will need to get there. So we have a variety of positions and career paths that our alumni have pursued. Katie, my last question for you. What advice do you have for people about the application process? You know, what was that like for you, and what do you want to make sure people know at this stage?
There's so many things about the application that I loved and also was terrified of, but it is a self-discovery journey, and use it as that. It is not meant to be this intimidating process. It's basically allowing you to take the time to decide what have been your biggest challenges, mistakes you've made, or weaknesses, and how you want to change your life and grow in the industry. You can do goal setting while you're in this application process and career development for yourself. And part of that is use your references. That you should be forming your relationship with your references now and letting them know that you need this by this certain date. But have a conversation with them so that you can really speak about why you want to change, where your goals are, so that they know how to write that recommendation and what you're really looking for. Take the time to think about where you see yourself in 5 years and the transitions that you want to make, and use it just as a growing period. It was important to me to get over the fact of it's possible that I could be rejected, and really just know that I'm learning more about myself and taking the time to do that, because in a normal situation, I would never be so self-reflective. And then also take the time, like I said, to speak with your family, your friends. See, it's nice to have them give you feedback of what they think you can improve on and already like the strengths that you have. So this is a journey of change and developing yourself, but also hold on to those competencies that you already have, and you're just going to improve on them. And a final, just last bit of advice is make sure you have someone review your application before you submit it, just for checking little things, or if there's little additions that you can add in the end, and make it a fun process for yourself. You should be excited that there is this type of program that exists in the world, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So have fun.
Yeah, let's not let the fun get lost in all of the work. We do have a lot of fun together as well. I wanted to just follow up on two things that Katie said. One, with the letters of recommendation, find someone who can speak to your leadership capacity. You know, this is not a plant science program. This is not a technical program. This is really a program focused on your ability to lead others. And so ask that your recommenders speak to that aspect of your experience and personal characteristics. It helps also if they know something about Longwood or the Fellows Program. So if they're not familiar, by all means, share the materials on our website and just give them that context so that they can speak to your ability to succeed in this particular environment. And then the other thing I wanted to note, we've had a number of very successful fellows who have had to apply more than once. And so sometimes a person will not be accepted, not because of who they are as a potential leader, but because of the composition of the cohort. So success is a team sport, and we want to set people up for success. So sometimes it is about, the right team, the right group of people. And so we are very careful about the individuals and the group and attending closely to the interplay of various members of our cohorts. So I say this not to discourage you, but just to be aware that we're looking not only at individual qualifications, but in the interview weekend, how those factors come to play. So at this point, I would like to open the conversation to questions from you. So if you have not yet had a chance to put questions in the chat, by all means do so. I think there is a Q&A button that you can use. Sarah, what are you seeing? Are we getting questions coming?
Yes. So we've got a few questions in there. So the first one is from Ray, who asks, is there a deadline for nominations? And nominations can be part of that application submission. So what we would normally see, Ray, is the nomination kind of letter from that person coming in and being submitted with your application, so that it kind of comes through in the same kind of package as the application. So there isn't an earlier deadline for those nominations. We've got two questions from Jessica and Margaret about, Katie, you touched on this a little bit with your question, but if people are married or have children, how does that work with the program? So I don't know, maybe if you can talk a little bit to two of our current fellows who have a young family and how they are kind of keeping that work-life balance, perhaps.
Sure. So Nick and Zach, they're both from the United States, and they both have children that are under the age of 1. And they have made an effort. Nick previously lived in Washington, D.C., and his wife relocated to North Carolina. So he was able to take the train down to see her fairly often. And now he's seeing her about once a month. And same with Zach. He lives a little bit further. So he is going about once a month. The families haven't come up here yet, but they are more than welcome to. We have a very large house that we live in. So there are rooms, like guest rooms that families can come stay at. Generally, we decide as a household how often they come, but it's normally like once a month. You can have someone come stay here. My husband did come here in July and was able to interact with all the fellows and do group activities with us. But it really depends on the person, but there's plenty of time to have that family work-life balance.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. And Longwood does have one or two other student properties on site, and what we do is try and keep one or two of those vacant. So certainly I know Zach and Nick are looking at bringing their families up and using one of those other properties for a visit as well. So hopefully Jessica and Margaret, that helps know a little bit more about that kind of work-life balance. And then the other question we have is from Rodin, and he has just finished his PhD in plant diversity. So congratulations, that's a real achievement. And he's asking about fellowships for people who have PhDs. So the program is absolutely international. We have, I think every cohort we have international fellows. As Sharon was talking to, and Sharon, I'll let you respond, but this program is aimed at the leadership piece, not the technical research piece. So Sharon, I don't know if you want to just speak to that leadership piece a little more.
Yeah, I think one can demonstrate leadership in a variety of different settings. That certainly includes the hands-on scientific research that happens in the world of public horticulture. But this program is not focused on those technical skills or on expanding those technical opportunities, but in really looking for individuals who want to be leaders in those settings. One of our current fellows is a PhD. He has a PhD. He is on sabbatical from his university where he is a professor. So he is pivoting from the essentially line work of doing scientific research and pivoting toward that leadership development and organizational development work that he's interested in doing. So having a PhD in plant diversity would certainly set you up for working with technical teams, but this program would not be an extension of that work that you have been doing.
That's great. And I apologize. You can tell I'm in the garden because the mowers are mowing right outside my window. So apologies for the background noise. Courtney's asked about where are the international placements? And, that's one of the really exciting parts of the program. Longwood has so many amazing partnerships and relationships with all these great gardens around the world. So Sharon, I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit more about where some of those placements opportunities are.
Certainly. And like Sarah said, this process of developing organizational partnerships is really important to Longwood. So we have existing arrangements with gardens, of course, throughout North America, from Florida to California, Boston, up in Canada, as well as in the UK, in France, in Asia, China, Singapore. So those are some of the places where our past fellows have chosen to do their immersion projects, or their placements rather. The process of developing new partnerships with other institutions is tied to Longwood's strategic goals. So we look at sort of plant collecting priorities and emerging gardens as a way to expand those particular investments. I will say, with the pandemic continuing, our placements for the next year or two might be contingent upon travel restrictions to and from the United States. But right now, we are sort of cautiously proceeding with our list as it is and looking for ways to continue connecting fellows through existing partnerships while expanding into new regions.
Thank you, Sharon. And sometimes that leads to exciting opportunities. I know Caslin, one of our first cohort, did her field placement in Gardens by the Bay, and they actually created a role for her. So she's been living and working out in Singapore since then. So Courtney has another question, which is read the department immersions. What departments do fellows work within? And Sharon and Katie, I wonder if you want to speak maybe a little bit more to the ones this year, but really, Courtney, it's any department that you're interested in Longwood, but maybe Sharon or Katie, you can speak to that a little.
Certainly. And the departmental immersion is really a marriage of the fellows' individual interests and Longwood's departmental goals. So we ask that fellows kind of pitch a project to different departments and then build out a project plan for the time that the fellows will be able to work in those departments. Like Sarah said, all of Longwood is open to consideration. This year we have fellows working in engagement and learning, in collections management, in the horticulture division, and then Katie talked a little bit about her project. Katie, I don't know if you can share a little more about what you're thinking and how you selected the departments that you wanted to work with.
So we were given a list from each of the departments of general projects that we could potentially work on and then expand those topics. And I was looking more at research and conservation and combined with education or like learning and engagement. So I was able to mold mine, which is completely fine to do, with the land stewardship and ecology department, integrating with the interpretation to be able to understand both of those departments a little bit more. And I'm creating a project where I can take the data, the scientific data that this land stewardship department is using and gathering, and then help build a connection with the interpretation department so that that information is available to the public and they have a better sense of how Longwood are being great stewards to the land that they are on. The other projects that some of my cohort fellows are doing are building connections with their home gardens. So Noemi from Mexico, she is working to create a partnership with her garden at home, which is incredible, with the research and conservation department. And then there's also more immersion into programming to be able to work across all of the departments. So it's really creating your own niche of what is going to make you happy and develop your career further.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. So I know we've still got a couple more questions that have come in that I'd like to try and work through before we finish coming soon. So I'm going to merge the question from Jessica and Amanda. So Jessica asks, how many applicants do we generally receive on average? And Amanda has asked, what happens with the process after the closing date? So perhaps I can cover that one and merge those two together. So we generally receive between 50 to 60 applicants for the Fellows Program each year. And from that, we look through every application, we shortlist, we have a selection committee, which has one member from the UK, and then 2 members from gardens across the US, and then some of the Longwood team. And they look at the shortlist, and from the shortlist, which is usually around 25, we select 10 people to come to Longwood for a 2-day interview. And during that interview process, it's a mix of a presentation, an individual interview, and a group activity. And obviously, there's also time for you to see Longwood, explore Longwood, and speak with the fellows and just get a real feel for Longwood and the program. So hopefully that answers those 2 questions. Then we also have a question around what would we consider fields to be closely associated with public horticulture? Would we consider leadership in biodiversity conservation as being that connection? And I would say absolutely. We do have applicants from other cultural areas, such as museums as well, who want to make that switch. So we see horticulture in its broadest term, as well as in public horticulture. So absolutely, where you've got the biodiversity conservation and you want that public outreach, that's absolutely a great kind of area to want to move into. And then Jeanette has asked, we use the term family style living, so describe that a little bit more. So Katie, perhaps you can explain a little bit just about how everyone has their own room, there's lots of space in the house, some meals are together, some meals are separate depending on people's schedules.
Of course. So we're fortunate enough to live in this house called Holly Hill, which is on the Longwood property. And we each have our own bedrooms. We share some bathrooms and some are private. And we have a communal kitchen, multiple living rooms. The house is very large, so there's plenty of space to have your alone time or to be together as a group. We do communal meals about once a week, sometimes more, but we seem to only hang out in the kitchen and living room area, even though the house is so large. We really like to be together quite often. There's also an area to work out in the basement. The laundry is all on the facility property. There's garages if you bring your car to Longwood, which is very helpful because it is in a rural area. But there's plenty of space to move around the house and have your own private time, but great areas to live together and interact. We have this wonderful porch outside that seems to be our go-to space as well, with like 12 rocking chairs on it that has a beautiful view. So it's very peaceful and quiet here. And there's a good balance to be alone and be together as a group.
That's great. Thank you. So I don't know if anyone else has any other questions and wants to kind of type it in. We've got a few minutes left. Or Sharon or Katie, if you've got any kind of observations or last minute sort of top tips and words of wisdom.
Well, I do see two questions here in the chat outside of the Q&A. So someone is asking about the age of the oldest applicants. The age of the applicants has ranged from sort of late 20s to early 50s. And I think that speaks to people who, have some experience and are looking to make that career pivot. So that's sort of the age demographic that we have drawn to date. There are no age restrictions other than looking for a sort of minimum amount of experience. And then there's the question, have you found many of the fellows find post-fellowship employment in their field placements? I would say it's more common for fellows to receive job offers and find opportunity outside of that field placement, but the field placement is really crucial to building the network and helping the fellows kind of articulate what direction they would like to head. That sometimes includes geographic direction. What part of the world are you really looking to work in? And Sarah, you might be able to speak to that in more detail, but that's my sense of sort of where fellows head when they're done with their field placements.
Yes, absolutely. So certainly that network and connections are really strong from the field placement. Caslin, who I mentioned earlier, that was, she did end up having a role created for her and she's still working for Gardens by the Bay. Many of the fellows go straight to roles. Some of them go back to their home institutions because they've been with us on sabbaticals. And they go back to new roles within that. So quite often, because of that leadership growth, they have new roles. But I would say from the previous cohorts, many of our fellows have gone on to director roles, VP roles, and actually even like exec director roles. So I can see there's another question about interview weekend scheduled, and I was just looking it up, and we are looking at the 25th and 26th of October. So that's people would normally arrive on Sunday, the 24th of October, And then the interviews will take place over the Monday and Tuesday, the 25th and 26th is what we've got scheduled, if that helps.
I have a slide with some of those dates, so I wondered if we could pull that up while we work through the remaining questions on our list, just so folks can have a sense of that timeline over the next few months. So we have about a month to go in the application period. Now is a great time to tap your recommenders if you have not done so. Sometimes it takes a bit of wrangling to get people to actually submit that letter into the system. Like Sarah said, we have a review committee that hand reviews everything. Nobody is screened out by a computer system. We carefully evaluate every application that is submitted, and then make decisions about who to invite to that interview about a month in advance. So you will know around the end of September whether you are moving forward in the screening process.
Thanks, Sharon. We've got one more question. I'm aware we've got 3 minutes left, so we'll try and answer those questions as well. So Courtney's asked about transitioning from another field, but you may have less experience in horticulture. And my kind of thinking is that if you've had that leadership experience in another field, then, that is generally transferable. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to address that in your application. Tell us why you're interested in moving into public horticulture.
That's great. And Katie, this one's for you, I think. Who's the best cook in the house at the moment?
I just saw that.
We're
all great. It's actually really nice because we all have diverse backgrounds, so we're able to share our cultural food from all over the world. So it's been really fun being able to share each of our homey foods. And that's one of the first questions I always ask everyone. So it's nice that we've all cooked for each other. I won't single out anyone.
Very diplomatic, Katie. Well done.
You want to say,
sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if I don't speak again, if any of you want to ask further questions, myself and the rest of the fellows are more than willing to speak with you all. If you want our email addresses, we'd be happy to share that information with you. And especially if you come to the interview, it can be a little daunting. So please feel free to reach out to us.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. Sharon, was there anything you'd like to say just to kind of wrap us up?
Yes, thank you. I will say, we may be out of time with this session, but I hope this is only the beginning of the conversation. So please, please, please be in touch if you have further questions about the program or the application process. We are so excited that you joined us today and that you are interested in the program. And we're looking forward to the chance to get to know you. So by all means, connect and let's continue talking.
That's great. Thank you, Sharon. And a last thank you for everyone for joining us. And we really look forward to reading and seeing your applications and hopefully welcoming you for interviews later in the year. So thank you very much. Goodbye.